James Altman heard the precinct doors swing shut behind him with a heavy thud, the sound sealing him inside a space that suddenly felt too small, too bright, and too hostile. His boots, still damp from the morning drizzle, left faint prints on the tiled floor as he stepped further into the 4th Street Police Precinct in downtown Detroit. The air smelled like stale coffee and industrial cleaner, a scent that did nothing to ease the tension coiling in his chest. He wasn't here to cause trouble. In fact, he'd come to do the exact opposite. James had spent the last 16 years working maintenance at the Elijah B. Hayes Federal Courthouse, a towering structure just 3 blocks from where he now stood. He was the kind of man who showed up early, kept to himself, and fixed problems before most people even noticed they existed. His coworkers called him Jim, or sometimes just Altman, and he never minded. Names weren't important to him, actions were. That morning, though, something had gnawed at him. He'd been checking the pipes in the courthouse basement when he glanced out a narrow window and saw 2 men lingering near a restricted parking lot. They weren't dressed like contractors, didn't move like employees, and one of them had crouched beside a black Chevy Impala with Ohio plates, sliding something beneath the trunk before disappearing down an alley. It wasn't dramatic, but it was wrong. 2 weeks earlier, there'd been a security briefing about that same lot, unauthorized vehicles, suspicious activity. James hadn't forgotten, so he did what he thought was right. He grabbed his ID badge, tossed his tool bag into his van, and drove straight to the nearest precinct. Now, standing in the middle of the lobby, he felt eyes on him. A pale officer with a buzz cut and a smirk leaned against the front desk, arms crossed. "Help you?" James kept his voice steady. "I work at the federal courthouse, saw something suspicious near the loading dock, figured I should report it." The officer's smirk didn't faint at her. "Maintenance," James corrected. 16 years. Another voice cut in, deeper, rougher. "What's in the bag?" James turned. A broad-shouldered detective with a square jaw and a habit of chewing gum like it had personally offended him stepped forward. His badge read Detective Vince Ryland. "My tools," James said. Ryland didn't ask. He reached out and yanked the bag from James's grip, unzipping it with one hand while giving James a look that said, "I already don't like you. You can't just walk in here saying you saw something suspicious and expect us to jump," Ryland said, rummaging through the bag. James exhaled slowly. "I'm not asking you to jump. I'm telling you there were 2 guys acting shady near a federal building. One of them left something under a car. Could be drugs, could be a weapon, I don't know, but it didn't look right." A younger officer, Officer Dean Holloway, sauntered over, his mirrored sunglasses reflecting James's face back at him. "You sure you weren't the one leaving something?" James blinked. "Excuse me?" Holloway tilted his head. "You match a description. Dark clothes, utility bag, hanging around a government building." James pulled out his ID. "Look, I work in the building, Elijah B. Hayes Courthouse. My supervisor's name is Marcus Boone. Call him." They didn't call anyone. Ryland snatched the ID, glanced at it for half a second, then tossed it onto the desk. "You're loitering and refusing to comply," he said flatly. "Let's go." James took a step back. "What? I came here to report something." Ryland didn't answer. He pulled out handcuffs. James raised his hands, not in surrender, but in disbelief. "You're arresting me for what? Obstruction? Trespassing?" "We'll figure it out," Ryland muttered. The cuffs clicked around James's wrists before he could process what was happening. The lobby was nearly empty, just a bored desk clerk and an old woman paying a parking ticket. No one spoke up. No one even looked at him. As Ryland led him down the hallway, James caught sight of a bulletin board. A grainy surveillance photo was pinned to it, a black and white still of a parking lot. His parking lot. The same Impala. But now, he wasn't a witness. He was in a holding cell. The cell smelled like bleach and sweat, the kind of clean that only made things feel dirtier. James sat on the bench, elbows on his knees, staring at his hands. They were rough, calloused, the hands of a man who'd spent his life fixing things. Now they were cuffed for no reason. A voice broke the silence. "What they get you for?" James looked up. A younger guy, early 20s, wiry, with restless energy, sat across from him. His sweatshirt was faded, his sneakers busted at the toes. "Loitering, apparently," James said. "And obstruction." The guy snorted. "They always make up charges when they ain't got a real reason." He leaned back. Name's Trey. James. Trey studied him. You don't look like you belong here. I don't. Trey nodded like he understood more than he was saying. They get nervous when they see a man who knows how to carry himself, especially one who looks like you. Before James could respond, the cell door clanked open. Holloway stood there, hot clipboard in hand. Altman, you got someone to call? James didn't move. I already told you, call Marcus Boone at the Elijah B. Hayes Courthouse, Maintenance Department. Holloway shrugged. That's not how it works. You give me a number, or you sit here till someone cares enough to find you. James held his gaze. Holloway smirked, knocked on the bars, and walked away. Outside the precinct, things were already in motion. Marcus Boone wasn't a man who panicked, but when James didn't return from his break after an hour, he knew something was wrong. James wasn't the type to disappear. He was the type to clock in 5 minutes early and leave 5 minutes late, every single day. Marcus called James's phone, straight to voicemail. Called again. Same thing. Then he called the precinct. 4th Street Police, Officer Danvers speaking. Yeah, I'm looking for someone who might have come by there. James Altman, works maintenance at the federal courthouse. Dark blue uniform, probably had a tool bag. A pause, keys clicking. Yeah, we've got an Altman in holding. Came in earlier, charges pending. Marcus's grip on the phone tightened. What charges? Obstruction, trespassing, loitering. Marcus nearly laughed. He works for the federal government. Did anyone even check his ID? Sir, I'm just relaying what's on the sheet. Marcus hung up and made another call, one he only used when things went sideways. Back in the cell, James heard tires screech outside. Not sirens, not chaos, just the sharp stop of vehicles arriving with purpose. Then voices, footsteps, the kind that made the whole precinct go quiet. The cell door opened again. This time it wasn't Holloway. A man in a dark suit stood there, badge clipped to his belt. Mr. Altman? James stood. Yeah. Special Agent Daniel Shaw, FBI. You're free to go. James didn't move. Just like that? Shaw's expression didn't change. Your arrest was unauthorized. We've been watching this precinct for a while. You just gave us the opening we needed. As James stepped into the hallway, he saw Ryland and Holloway being escorted out in cuffs. And for the first time since he'd walked into that precinct, James Altman allowed himself to smile.